I just like being asked questions. I don't really care what kind of questions I get asked, I guess.
Ah, so do you believe you're going to make a book about the cat kingdom in the future as well?
For
You are now listening to the Going North podcast with your host, author and speaker Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, you're going to hear the voice of a different author share their stories, expertise, and their struggles that they had to overcome in life to leave you inspired to get more out of your life. Be sure to not only listen to this episode, but share with others, connect with the authors, and always advance others to advance yourself. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North podcast, aka GMP, the glorious GMP, the great, we have another great author on the show today, baby. Women's History Month 2021, baby. The millennium finally gets the drink because it turned 21 after the year 2000, baby. Because my goodness, we got one heck of a guest for you today, folks, because she has written in multiple genres, y'all, multiple genres indeed, because she has adventures, man, plenty of adventures, castle hopping across North Wales to explore family roots that resulted in a young adult fantasy series called The Last of the Gifted, which includes two books, Spirit Sight and Water Sight. She's the author of more than 40 children's books. That's right, folks. She's past her midlife crisis in terms of books published, y'all, with traditional publishers such as Amicus, Scholastic Education, Crabtree, and Learner/Lightning Bolt. Her award-winning short stories and poetry appear in such literary magazines such as Sunlight Press, Subterrane, and Room. And she holds a Master's of Fine Arts and Creative Writing from the University of British Columbia, as well as a Master's of Arts, Bachelor's of Journalism and Communication, and Bachelor's of Fine Arts, baby. And on top of that, she's an engaging speaker that gives popular writing workshops across the region. So let's give it up for the fabulous MP herself with all of her magical powers, Miss Marie Powell. How you doing, Marie?
Hi, Dom. Thank you. Great introduction. Thank you.
Oh yeah. I probably just start putting a tiger tail zoom background whenever someone says great for extra punniness. Yes, indeed. Well, yes, indeed. It's great having you. Welcome to the wonderful pun on the bun session.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't worry, just see it as a hamburger on a bun. That's all.
All
Except
right.
hamburger spells pun on it.
Okay.
But this ain't about puns. It's about the marvelous Marie. So am I filling in any cavities I missed about you?
I think you pretty much covered everything. Yeah, my new series is the result of castle hopping across Wales. That's true, and a couple of times I've been a couple of times. So, and it's set in Wales in 1282, 83. So yeah, it was an interesting journey for sure.
Ah, there we go. An interesting journey indeed with the castle hopping. So, what's probably your favorite experience, at least from one of those castles? Is there a particular castle that you loved more than the others?
Oh, there's some really great ones. There's the one that kind of where I got the idea to do this series actually was Dulwich Castle, which is in this just in the Snowdon Mountains, and it's we we we're staying in a sheep farm just nearby, and I had been going like we had a car, right? And me trying to drive in North Wales is kind of a trip as because it's like you're on the opposite side of the road and you're on the opposite side of the car, and you're driving down the little tiny highway, whereas in North America, at least in Canada, we're pretty used to like shoulders on the road, right? But in Wales there is no shoulders on the road, right? Little tiny roads, and you sometimes have to, especially in that part of the country, if something's coming towards you, you kind of have to stop and back up, and they have these little pullouts. You kind of pull into a pullout and let the cars go by you so that you can go down the highway again. It's a trip. Anyway, so we were going out around the people know of as the castles of Wales, like the big ones, right? Carnarvon and Beaumaris, the big, Conwy, those ones. And I was kind of surprised to find out that those are not Welsh castles. They're English castles. and they were created by Edward I to subjugate the Welsh, right? And in 1282, 1283 is when most of them originated. And we were staying near a little Welsh castle on our sheep farm. We were about 5 minutes away. And so we one day hopped in the car and went to the little Welsh castle. Completely different. In the English castles, I mean, they were full of tourists. There's a tourist shop. There's guides. You know, you can pay a guide to take you around and give you a guided tour, all that kind of stuff. And you had to pay a ticket to get in. Like you had to buy your way in. But the little Welsh castle, Dolwyddelan, there was nobody anywhere. And we went up the hill to this little sort of stone thing that was on the, top of the mountain, I guess it is, not a hill. Anyway, there were signs around it that were kind of like, in pictures, right? And the signs would be like people falling off of things. So it was kind of like, enter at your own risk, right? You know what I mean? It was like, okay, there were no guides, there were no tickets, there was nothing. So we could wander in there. The nice thing about that, though, is you could kind of go anywhere you wanted, and you were on your own. And there was a lovely little waterfall and this little stream and a lovely countryside. And we went up into the area where the big stone thing was to see what it was all about. And we were really surprised to see that the door of the castle was like on the first floor, not on the main floor where you expect to go into a building. It was like up, and there was a set of stone stairs, kind of rickety ones that were sort of all crumbly and falling apart. So we went up the stairs to go in the door and see what was in the castle. We got in there and there was placards, so it was kind of like a self-guided tour or a self-guided something, right? And it was little, it was like cozy and kind of cute. And there was the fireplace right there. And people apparently slept together on the floor, like women on one side of the floor, men on the other side of the floor, theoretically, right? And then up the stairs, there would maybe be one separate building. That might have been the prince's or something like that, right? But basically, it was pretty, like I say, cozy, little, very different than the English castles that we had just seen. So we walked around and we looked at actually read the placards, read the history, and it was in Welsh and English, which kind of impressed me. And we found out that in 1282 and 1283, they lost a huge war, and they lost their language, the right to, speak Welsh. You could actually be, beheaded for speaking Welsh. They lost the ability to, like, their way of life, if you will. They had a system of law. They lost their law. It was replaced by English law. They lost a lot, and they lost their a prince that had actually pulled the whole country together for the first time in the history of Wales. All of it gone in the space of about 6 to 8 months, right? But they managed to last 6 to 8 months. It's a little tiny country, Dom. It's like, I live in Saskatchewan, which is pretty huge in a way, but we're the smallest of the Canadian provinces. And Wales is about 1/30th the size of Saskatchewan. So it's like little tiny country. And yet there are so many castles around it. And if you can imagine this one little space being invaded by an army of like 10,000, and an army bent of, partly mercenaries, kind of bent on exterminating the Welsh. That's actually the intention of that. So pretty brutal, and not a lot of records left. But what we do know, or what we could see on the placards that we were looking at, was kind of strangely like the history here, the subjugation of the First Nations people here in Canada. And in my city, there's a history of the road allowance people, the Métis people, being forced to remain outside the town and not being allowed to come in after the town after 5 o'clock. They had to sleep. There was an area here which became later the exhibition grounds, where they were forced, they could only sleep there. They couldn't come in. They couldn't speak their own language, all that kind of stuff. And it was really like the history of Wales in 1282, 1283. So that really threw me, knowing that history and just seeing that correlation. It was like, wow. And I started to think about what it would be like to live in that little castle, and to live in that area, and to go through that and lose your way of life and lose your ability to even speak your own language and all of that. So it really affected me in a weird way. It was almost like I picked up a ghost or something, and like I started to kind of get this sense of this other life, this life long time ago. I wasn't really that interested in historical fiction before that. I read some, You can hear my cat meowing. Sorry. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but she's trying to get over here. Anyway, I
Meow.
wasn't, yeah, can you hear that? Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway,
It's all good. Keep going.
uh,
Good.
so like I say, I wasn't really all that interested in writing history up to that point, but that got me interested. That was kind of, part of the roots of my world that I didn't really know about. My grandfather, who was a Welsh-speaking Welsh person, his first language was Welsh, according to what he put on the census when I found him. He died a long time before I was born. And so people always said he's from Wales, but they didn't say from where. It's like nobody can pronounce those town, names anyway. So, nobody ever took a record of where he was exactly from. And so it's like I was looking for I guess I was looking for something to connect to. And that's what I found, that's what I connected to. At that time, I didn't have my MFA in creative writing. I had my MA, but I didn't have an MFA. And I just didn't feel like I was a good enough writer to write the story that was rolling around in my head, So that sent me back to school. And I was like 50 something at that point. I'm going to do the math here, but it, it wasn't it wasn't a little thing for me. It was kind of like a big thing. And so it drew me off in this direction of historical fantasy. And I didn't want to write it as a straight history either, because I've always been kind of uh, veering towards fantasy, speculative fiction, something like that. But I did want it to have a historical feel to it because of what I was finding out. And the more I found out, the more I realized what kind of time that was and what people in that area must have been going through. So I wanted to combine those two things, right? The magic with the real, the heavy sort of history stuff that was going on around them. So really, this is a story about the people who lost the war, you know? And people who lose a war don't get to write the history. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Like
yep.
you have to piece that together by reading between the lines very much. And there were a lot of records that were deliberately destroyed after this particular war. So you can kind of think, yeah, must have been pretty brutal. They didn't want to admit some of the stuff they'd done. And there's no way, to really know for sure what happened when during that period of time. But so that was good for me though, because I could kind of crawl into those gaps and create something, right? And figure out how it might have happened. If there was magic involved, how would they have, maybe they were able to get away because of this or that. So then I was able to kind of use that for my characters and create a kind of a magic system. Through my dad, I had heard a lot of sort of Welsh stories and Welsh legends and things like that. And I was interested in that. So I read a lot of that when I was a kid. I tried to find what I could find. It isn't much, but I tried to find whatever I could that was like that, like that would be part of my heritage or whatever. And so I could combine that into what I was doing with my magic system, like so that there was sort of a mythological basis for it. But I was again reading between the lines of the myths, thinking because Welsh magic is weird. It's like very strange compared to say the usual. We know the Irish magic and we know the Scottish magic, but and we kind of don't know a lot about the Welsh because it's kind of odd. It's like not what you doesn't really work. It's like how what like it's totally imaginative stuff. So, and it's you can evolve in the Welsh system. You can have one kind of magic and it can kind of grow into something bigger or, stretch in different ways. So I could use that concept for my characters too. And I really liked that. So it was fun. It was an interesting thing to do. And, it just kind of pulled me in a new direction. So yeah, it was,
That's what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome indeed. So Welsh magic being weird, like how weird is it? Is it like if you fail, you turn into like a bush or
Mm,
something?
no, it's like it's very imaginative stories. It's like instead of heaven, for example, there's otherworld, right? And otherworld is kind of like our world, except that magic goes on there and different people live there and you inhabit those people. So when you go into otherworld, you're not you anymore, you're this other guy. And then you have to deal with how do you live his life or her life without screwing it up while you're there. You know what I mean? And like so it's like that. There's and the Arthur legends that are Welsh legends. Arthur has knights that can, for example, they get to a stream, they can't cross the stream. So one of the knights gets down and drinks it dry. because why not, right? Another one can lift his bottom lip over the top of his head, stuff like that. It's like what? So I'm saying, it's like, what the heck? How that's not even, that's not possible, right? And so, like I say, it's a magic system where strange and interesting things can happen, and there isn't a lot of explanation of that. One, like they have shapeshifters who don't just shift it, like not werewolves, they don't shift from man to wolf and back again. They shift from animal to animal to animal, and animals can shift too, right? In some of the stories, people watch the animals shift, and other stories people shift into different things, and they can go from one animal to another without coming back to human again. So it's an interesting sort of, like I say, it's an evolving magic. And so I was able to give my characters a kind of an evolving magic. They didn't have just one gift that had its own rules and stayed that way. They were able to adapt to circumstances that were happening around them, which is a really valuable thing to be able to do, right? If you're trying to, it's not all that easy either. It happens in its own time and in its own way, and they don't have a lot of control over it. So, and it's all kind of mixed up with ancestor magic too, because the Welsh in that time period could trace themselves back to Troy. And, so you get all those Greek, if the Trojans were the cousins of the Greek, then you get all the Greek myths in there as well. And they undoubtedly had a whole system of bards. They had 3 different types of poets or bards, right? Telling stories in song and poems. They had 24 different meters of poetry that you had to learn. Apparently, to be a good bard, you had to chase your shadow through this particular cave on Cederidris mountain before you had to get through the cave before your shadow did, before it could catch you, stuff like that, so so yeah, strange and different stuff, right? And kind of fun to play with that in a system where you're losing it, like to try and bring out in the books what was lost, as well as how they survived it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. So my goodness, well, with all this wonderful knowledge, it's no wonder you decided to make this a YA fantasy book.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seemed to fit, it's like, and I am drawn to younger readers anyways. Like I write for children. I've been writing for children, right, up to that point. And I took my MFA in children's writing with the full intention of writing these books that way. In fact, my thesis project was the first draft of Spirit Sight, the
Oh.
first book. Yeah. So I went through, and the amazing Glenn Huser, who is he's a Canadian author, Governor General's Award winner, and so on. Very kind man, also very smart and very kind. And, with his help, I managed to get through an entire draft of this book during the year of my thesis. So I was really happy with that. And then, of course, it's gone amazing ways since then. It's evolved. Not just the magic system, the book itself, yeah, it's definitely evolved and changed over the years. But it was great to have that experience. I love UBC for the experiences I had there during my MFA. It was really worth doing. Yeah, one of the best decisions I made.
Amen to that. Well, that's what I'm talking about. And talk about truly repurposing content using your master's thesis for Spirit Gate. That's freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's actually the first time I've actually heard of that, at least in terms of creating a fiction novel. 'Cause most times they may take their thesis, make it like one of those nonfiction books, but this is totally different.
Well, yeah. I mean, people do. It's good if you can get your thesis published eventually, right? It's and not just as a thesis, but as an actual book, like a popular book. It's kind of unusual to do something that would be fantasy. Most people do sort of literary fiction, maybe through an MFA or something like that. But UBC is quite open to other genres, like genre writers, if you will, people who write fantasy or science fiction or something that's not literary fiction as such, right? So that was good for me, because that's what I read, I read everything, but what I really like is fantasy, different types. And so it was great to have the opportunity to write one, with some really expert help.
Yeah, I can say that again. And I think the world's gotten so big now thanks to the internet. You kind of have to accept multiple genres. You can't really box yourself in
Yeah.
any single place. Like really have to broaden your horizons because so many folks are gaining so many interests now with all this access to information out there. You
Yeah.
kind of have to do it and adjust with the times and just really keep getting better with the times.
Yes, hopefully. Yeah, that's the idea, right? Getting better all the time. And that's I guess like I say, when I looked at my skills at that point, I just went, yeah, I'm people think of me as a good writer, but I don't think I'm good enough to write this, so I really had to push myself to and stretch, myself, my skills to be able to really approach this topic the way that I wanted to get what I wanted to out of it. It's taken a while, you know, to really push it in that direction also. And I had, like, I've done things like I've hired a historical reviewer to look at the
Oh,
history aspect of it because I really wanted it to be centered in that time, like I wanted that flavor and that feel. And it's an odd time because, like I say, there's not a lot of records and things like that that you can use to create that kind of history, the detail that you need. So I really felt like I did massive amounts of research and I just never could find enough. So I was really pleased to find this woman to be my historical reviewer and give me a hand with, and not making it academic and obscure, but really making it part of life. Like, how could I bring to life that time period for young readers today and older readers and anybody who wants to read it, right? But
mhm.
basically my ideal reader is about, 14, 15, one of those kids that sits in the back room and reads all the time. Yeah. And maybe maybe one that's playing games and I kind of want to lure them away, come and read this. So yeah. Yeah.
Using one of those Welsh reading spells like, "Ooh, hello,
Yeah,
little one.
read.
I've got some good books for you. They're
Oh yeah, if
magical."
you could, if wouldn't it be, it is magic if you could, sometimes if you can lure the kids off the games, right, these days. I mean, the games are amazing and magical in themselves. So yeah, I can understand why, but at the same time, reading is where I grew up, you know what I mean? It's what and writing is what I want to do. So mind you, if anybody wanted to make a game out of this book, I'd be happy. I'd help, you know? Why not, right? Yeah.
Amen to that indeed. And it's really great that you decided to went the children's route. So what inspired you to go that route? Is it because you wanted to keep your youthful side for like ever, or was it something
Well,
else deeper?
yeah, well, that would be nice, but yeah, no. No, it was I was like, I write for adults as well, right? I've written like for literary magazines and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I was writing short stories and things like that. And then I noticed that a lot of the people around me were children's writers. A lot of
Mm.
the people I knew that were friends of mine and that I would ask to read something I'd written to get feedback from them or something like that would be another children's writer. And I even wrote film scripts for a while. And the people in the film script group that I was writing with were some of them, were children's writers, the ones that I was appreciating and so on. And a friend of mine, Alison Lohans, gave a workshop, like a 6-week workshop in how to write for children. And I thought, well, maybe I'll take that. And I took it and it just kind of turned my life around. I went, ah, and the stuff that I started in that workshop ended up becoming published. And so, that got me more publications. And yeah, it kind of went from there. It was, um, I guess it was just a step that I took, and it worked out and things happened. And so I began to write those, right, children's books. But I discovered that I actually enjoy, I was a library programmer for a long time. And when you do programs for a library and that's your job, right? You do all kinds of different programs. So you do,
Hmm.
in the morning, you do a program for toddlers, where you're reading books to toddlers and doing finger plays and puppet shows and all that kind of stuff. And then in the afternoon, you've got your high school kids come in to do the, young adult advisory boards, we call them, and things like that, where the kids get together and tell you what they want the library to do for them, things like that. And so you get to lead one of those. And then in the evening, you're doing an adult program and you're doing all kinds of different things anyway. And I was a journalist at that point also. So my part-time job was library programmer, and I also wrote magazine articles. And then I started writing children's books, and then that kind of took off, and I kept writing. So I write all kinds of different genres at the same time, right? Even today I'm writing magazine articles and some creative nonfiction and my fantasy historical books. And I haven't written a book for younger children for a while, but I would, I mean, it's just that I haven't thought of anything in that particular genre for a while to write. But I'm pretty open to almost anything that comes along if it's got a story to it that attracts me, if it's got something to it that I want to explore more, because I find that what I write is not necessarily, people say write what you know. I don't know much, I wouldn't write much if I had to, because I really don't know very much, but I can find out stuff. I can do research. I can look at something. I can explore it. I can kind of find ways into it. And that's what I like to do. And so it broadens me too, right? It expands, it stretches me and broadens my horizons. You know, I find that writing does that for me. And so, yeah, I guess children's writing is just one of those horizons, that I found I like. And so I explore it a little more. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about right there. That wonderful creative expression in multiple ways, especially
Yeah.
with writing. And it is good that you're able to find that because you're definitely right about the whole library programming thing and
Mm.
creativity being required for that.
Yeah. I'm big on
Uh,
libraries, like I make sure that my books get into libraries because I want I get my books from libraries, quite often. Like I'll bring home a, stack of books and kind of go through them and decide if I want to buy one, I'll buy the one I really like. And
mhm.
I think libraries are amazing places. And so I make sure that my books get into the libraries because I want people to be able to find them there. I want young people to be able to just find them on the shelf and, read a little bit, right? And adults too, I really believe in the public library system. These days with COVID, it's kind of like they shut down, they open up again, people can't get in and so on. But the libraries have still managed to provide a service, right? They're still willing to try to bring the books to the door. There was a point where here we were doing that. Like you would call, like put your library books on hold on in the computer, and then you'd
Mhm.
go to the library and you had to stand in line with your mask on or whatever, and they would bring the books, and you would show them your library card. They would wand it from inside the building, and then bring you out a bag of books. It was talk about going the length. Like talk about going as far as you can go to make a service possible for people. So yeah, that was a big part of my life for about 15 years. So I still believe in that.
Oh, amen. There we go. That's right. You get the whole pan of brownie points for that one. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, serious. They should get a medal. Librarians should get a medal.
Oh, yeah. That's right. All the medals of honor
Hmm.
and have a
Yeah,
book on the medal.
yeah, seriously.
So,
Yeah.
my goodness, with all of this wonderful knowledge you have, do you think there might be a genre that you might explore in the future? Like, do you think it might be, oh, I'm not sure how this would be possible, but combining different genres like a Western, Welsh, black magic sort of thing? It's like where
Oh
everybody
yeah.
was
Okay.
cowboys.
Okay, I can kind of see it now. Yes. The the cowboy Welshman. I don't know. It's like, yeah. Well, maybe let's make it a woman, right? It's like,
There you
why not?
go.
Yeah. Cowgirl? No, cow woman?
Yeah, definitely cowgirl. Get the action in.
Definitely. Definitely. Why not, right? I
Yes,
have
indeed.
known some pretty feisty cowgirls here in Saskatchewan. I'm sure I could figure out a Welsh background for at least one of them.
It's like, yes, in my past life, I wore a hood inside of the random sanctum learning magic.
Yes, well, wouldn't that be useful though, hey? Like it would be actually pretty useful if you were trying to herd cows and you could like connect with them, and say, "Come on over here," and they would do it, right?
That's right. Be like, hey, the bard says will be like, hey, get a cow, man. Well, that's woman to you. And then the cow just comes right over magically. It's like, all right, I have a cow. Now what?
Here, there you go. I didn't have to rope him. He just came. Yeah. I'm sure I could work this out. Good idea, Dom. I will pursue that one. No, yeah, I do think there's um, probably a lot of different genres that you could combine in different ways, right? Speculative fiction is like that. It kind of leads you to um, new combinations, new ways of thinking. I like it for that reason. You know, that's what attracts me, I guess. It's very explorative, I guess you could say. You can explore a lot of different things through different kinds of, and speculative fiction is big, you know, it's broad. There's all kinds of fields within it, from science fiction to fantasy to ghost stories to horror to thrillers to, you know, you name it, right? I am kind of attracted to suspense and thrillers, not
Mm.
so much horror. I'm not, horror scares me, you know, but definitely I could go for thrillers and suspense and things like that. Um, yeah, yeah, definitely. Give me more
Yeah.
ideas here, Dom.
I can see it cooking in your brain. She's like,
Yeah,
oh, she's
yeah.
actually buying in. All right, cool. Yep.
What do
So the
they say?
next
Work with me, right? So, yeah.
there you go. Maybe a billionaire Highlander vampire romance.
Yeah, yeah. Billionaire for sure. Go for that. Go for that.
Exactly. They'll be like, okay, just need them to manifest. All right, cool. You suck my blood and I get some, some random life earnings forever.
You bet. You bet.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. But yes, indeed, definitely interesting indeed. And I love that you're able to really want to eventually go into that route. Maybe a speculative fiction, definitely, because folks are going to be needing that because it embraces creativity. So I'm guessing you're a pantser as well with some of your books in a way.
Yeah, I'm a sort of one of those people that's kind of in between. I sometimes do the first draft in a very kind of like a pantser, and then I go back and plot it later. I'm not very good at plotting, right? I'd like to be one of those people who could come up with a plot and just write it, you know, and churn out books after books after books. Maybe someday. Maybe I'll get there someday. But what I do, I guess what started me writing too was free writing, you know, like
Mm.
just that thing where I did all of those Julia Cameron books, you know, like the Artist's Way, you know, Walking in This World, those ones, and they're kind of like 12 chapters each, and each chapter has a bunch of exercises, and it's all based on free writing, writing 3 pages just off the top of your head at the beginning of the day. And just kind of getting rid of all that stuff, just writing it, not worrying about, you know, the grammar and all this kind of stuff. And I'm one of those people that was, when I was a kid, I was always really good at English, you know, the grammar stuff and all that kind of thing. So just being able to throw that away was really freeing in some odd way. Um, and so I still do that. I still journal, and maybe not as faithfully as I did when I was first writing, but it broke something open for me, you know, like it broke something open, and I was able to kind of go, look at this, you know, and just kind of run with the idea, right, and see where it would take me. So I do still write that way, and then go back later and do a second draft where I plod through and make things make sense. It's like sometimes they don't when you're, you know, pantsing. You get all kinds of weird, like you go on tangents, you know, and then you have to kind of go, is that work, or do I need to change that, or, you know, and how do I change it, how do I make it something? So I do that. So I sort of do a reverse outline, write it first
Mm.
and then outline it second, you know, like looking at what I was trying to do and trying to make that make more sense. And yeah, so yeah, that is my process. Yeah, I'm sort of in between the pantsers and the plotters, you know. I want to be a plotter, but usually doesn't work. Usually I gotta free it up first, you know, and go back later and make it make sense.
Ah, there you go.
Yep.
So some days you're the peanut butter, some days you're the jelly, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good. I like that. That's perfect.
That's right. And one magical literary sandwich known as a book. That's right.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, that's really good. Yes. Because it's also food, right? It's like food for your imagination. And I hope that um, my books inspire other people to write books, you know, like that if you can go in different directions with things, that maybe other people will kind of take that up on and go in their way, you know, find your own direction kind of thing, and go in that way. And I think that we live in a world like that, right? Everybody's a writer in a sense, you
Hmm.
know, so many writers writing books and publishing books now. Um, you think about the history of books and going back into the first, like there was only men wrote books initially,
Mhm.
right? You know,
Yeah.
and then, and gentlemen, like men who had money and land and whatnot, had the time to write books. And then gradually other people began to come in there and write books, and women were writing books, and sometimes they were changing their names so that you'd know they were women and this kind of thing, you know. And then it became, and like that's just the Western tradition too, because it wouldn't be true of like um, the Arabian countries have their own kind of tradition of, they were definitely on a different track than we were in that sense in the European countries. But just taking it from those few first people, like up to kind of the invention of the printing press and then the explosion of all that, and then the 19th century with all those melodramatic novels and things, like the novel began to be a thing, right? And then into our time where kind of books, you know, whatever, like there's hundreds of genres and there's hundreds of writers in each one of them and so on. It's like, it's kind of amazing. Everybody's got a book in them somewhere, right? And we all just need to start reading each other's books, you know, I think, or something, because it's like there's going to be so many out there. It's going to be hard to keep up. I try and read 50 books a year. I look at more than that. I probably look at more like 100, trying to decide which 50 do I really want to spend my time reading, right? And I listen to books on audio, and I look at books in my tablets, and I don't read on my phone because it's too little, but I do have a tablet. And you know, it's like you can't keep up. It's like there's so many more that I want to read, right? It's like, and at the same time you got to do other stuff, you know. It's like, yeah, you know, it's hard. We live in a world of so many things, so many pulls on our time, and so many pulls on our um, attention, you know. It's amazing to me that we get anything done.
You can say that again. When COVID first hit, I thought, man, I'm gonna finish all freaking 40 of these books in a month now.
Yeah.
And after week one, I think I, I probably got. Actually, I don't think I even finished any book. I got back into video gaming. Funny enough, with
Yeah,
COVID.
it's true. All of a sudden you just want to sit and watch the TV or something, you know, like, or like I tape things on the TV, so because I can't watch at certain times of the day, and usually that's when the shows are on, you know. By the time I get to the TV, everything's, I don't know, over, and it's like the middle of the night or whatever. But I tape them so that I can watch them whenever I really want to. And it's like, yeah, you just want to, sometimes I sit there and I'll watch for 3 or 4 hours and then go, what am I doing? You know, I've got things I got to get done, right? And it's like that. It's like, that's what, yeah, you're right. It's like very distracting time period. Sometimes you get up in the morning and you start doing things. You think, okay, I've got these things I'm going to do and I'm going to get them done today. And then it's all of a sudden 5 o'clock and you're like, I didn't do anything. Wait, what did I do all day? I don't understand. You know, where did the time go? Right. So yeah, yeah, I would like to write at least one more in this series, and I have a couple of other books on the go. I'd like to finish them all off, but yeah, then we'll see what I'm doing at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. You know, it's good intentions, right? But yeah, yeah, time
Oh yeah,
flies.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. We should rename Speed of Light, Speed of Time, because that's how fast
Oh
time moves.
yeah, yeah, it's true. It does. It just kind of whizzes by, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, it's December the what day already? December the, you know, or whatever, hey, whatever month that you're in. All of a sudden the time has gone by.
Yeah,
The
and
year is over, you know?
yep. And then you wake up in a
Yeah.
cornfield, like, wait, what happened to
Yeah.
my book?
Wasn't I reading this? What am I doing in this book? Yeah.
uh, but I love what you said earlier about how we should really try to read each other's books because it really would help each other to not only get better and encourage one another, but to also inspire others to write books of their own. And
Yes.
in the beginning, you mentioned how you probably had to deal with some self doubt issues with writing these two of your newest novels with wonderful wife, fantasy goodness. So, what helped you to get over that hump to finally just start the project and finish it?
Yeah. Having other writers as friends, like other writers as, support, I guess you could say. I'm in the most incredibly supportive group right now called the Creative Academy for Writers. And there are all kinds of groups like that popping up. This is one thing that's happened during COVID, that there's like communities, if you will, of writers. And we can be really far away from each other. Like the people in this group that I'm with, most of them are it was started in Vancouver, right? So most of them are in BC. Now I'm in Saskatchewan, which is kind of like the middle of Canada. They're at the West Coast. There's people in this group at the East Coast. There's now people in Europe. And I know this because we have writing sprints during the day, like just where people will just go on Zoom, they stick Zoom in the corner of their screen and they write. And it's just like nice to know that someone else out there is writing with you, at the same time as you. And and so there's an East European writing sprint really early in the morning. It's like 3 a.m. my time. And then there's an East Coast writing sprint. And then there's the West Coast normal writing sprints go on. And it's like, all day long, somebody somewhere is writing, and you can kind of go into this community and find them and write with, and they're there with you. You're not writing with them by any stretch, but they're there writing at the same time as you, which feels a lot like solidarity. You know what I mean? It feels good, very supportive. And also they have webinars throughout the day so that you can, if you're, thinking about a craft, like you feel like you need to look at point of view or something like that, you can tune in and listen to a webinar on that. They have webinars on marketing your books, so if you're worried about the marketing side of things, if people aren't buying your books, you can go and listen to some of that. And it just goes on. It's like an amazingly supportive community. But one of the things that they did was, Eileen Cook is one of the facilitators of this group. And she, during this, okay, so I met these people through a writing cruise. I was looking for something like that, right? And I found a writing cruise through this Surrey International Writing Festival, had the SIWC, had a writing conference, I guess it is, had they were going to do a retreat on a cruise. And I thought, wow, I could go for that, right? So you're out in a big boat. I like the big boats, and just cruising. You could go on the tours or not, and there were little courses going on during the day or not. You could just write if you wanted to, whatever. So I took this cruise, and we were going supposedly to one particular port, and apparently another cruise ship crashed into the port. So we weren't able to go. So we were on a cruise ship that was circling the ocean, because they couldn't go forward because their time to go to the next port wasn't till tomorrow. And the port that we were supposed to go into was inaccessible. So we were going around and around in the ocean. And I have to give kudos to the SIWC staff people that are so incredibly organized. They decided to pull some things together for us during that day, just things to do for the writers that were there on this cruise. And one of the things was what they call a blue pencil, right? Where you take a couple of pages of your manuscript and you show someone who is an editor or professional writer what you've been writing, and they look at it and they just kind of edit it right there for you. Like, oh yeah, they're reading along and they're editing as they're, with their pen out and so on, right as they're reading it. So I took my pages into Eileen, and she sat and read it, and she was giving me advice, and she said, yeah, so here you're doing this and here you're doing that. And it was like somebody else got kind of fired up about it, like it was like, wow, okay, I can see what you're saying here. I could do this, I could do that. And it was like the most incredibly supportive and inspiring couple of minutes, and all because we couldn't go into the port that day. It was one of those weird things that sometimes happens in life, right? What attracts me towards speculative fiction is things like that, where something unexpected happens and it's like the perfect thing, the thing you really needed, you didn't even know you needed. And, the universe kind of gives it to you, right? And so that's really why I went through with publishing these books, because of that little bit of support a few years ago, that, and their support since, and that I joined their group, and then their support since then really is what kind of convinced me to go forward with it, with a lot of editing too, like, because I have had 3 editors and so on working on this book with me. So it's not like I just, suddenly magically finished it and published it and that was it. It was like, three or 4 years of struggle here, to get these books together. But it was really that kind of thing happening every now and then. I got with the first 10 pages of this book, the first book, and Eileen read the second book, the first 10 pages of the first book, I got a scholarship to the Highlights for Children. Chautauqua was the last time that they met, in Chautauqua, New York, and I got to go to that conference, and they paid my way there, which, and it was quite expensive, I can tell you. Yeah, seriously. Things like that happening, like just a shot in the arm when you really need it. And that's what gives you the support to go on. But you know, to get that, you have to put yourself out there. You have to take the 3 pages in, you have to make the appointment, you have to fill out the form and ask for the scholarship, you know, you have to write the book in the first place. And then you have to start showing it to people. And I firmly believe if you put yourself on a path, you will find the way, you know, like in a way, it's like following your nose, you know, you will find where you need to be. If you just trust the path, that it's there, and you can find it, you can get there. Stretch yourself a little bit, you know, open yourself up to that, and good things may just come out and happen for you. Not all the time, but enough times, you know, that it supports you through and convinces you that yes, you can do this, and yes, you should do this, and do it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Do it indeed.
Mm-hmm.
So you heard that right, folks. Accountability, baby. Find some fellow writers to build up that confidence. Get that ask
Mm-hmm.
muscle, as one of our past guests said before. Ask and you shall eventually receive if you ask enough.
Yeah. Yeah, put yourself out there, put yourself on the path, because they can't find you if you don't. You know, if you're stuck in your little bubble, so to speak. And I know we're all in a bubble somewhere, but there's ways you can still put yourself out there through the Zoom programs, through the internet, different things, courses that are going on that would never have gone on before COVID, right? Even now, we're still opening things up. We're still making paths for each other. And I find that really neat.
That's right.
Yeah.
The rainbow road is open, baby. Pot of gold, here we come. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, baby. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Sweet. So, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're being interviewed?
Hmm. I just like being asked questions. I don't really care what kind of questions I get asked, I guess.
Ah, so do you believe you're going to make a book about the cat kingdom in the future as well?
For, I have a cat that should star in a book. They should, they're such personalities, hey, cats. That's one of my characters that's in this book series can shift into the forms of animals, right? And he won't shift into a cat because cats are
Oh,
too independent, and he can't get what he needs out of them. You know, I believe that's true. Cats are strange. They need their own book.
yeah. The other cats can't see it or they'll rip it. Like, what's this cat doing here? Yeah. I'm on life number 7. Why are you showing this cat for?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but this time
Oh,
in the year of 2021, with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
I would say write that book now. You know, I really would. Like, I think when I was 25, I kept thinking, oh, I'll do it when I'm 40. You know, writers are 40, right? I'm experiencing life right now. And I would tell myself to get busy and do it, like get something out there and get it done now, because why not, right? You can still do all the living and all that. Like, none of that stops when you start writing. But I wish I'd started when I was 25 instead of when I was 45, you know, because I think your best books are about 20 years in. And I'm
Mm,
just getting to those now, whereas I'm kind of tired now. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stuff going on in life, and I wish I could have handled a lot of this stuff when I was younger and had the more energy to do it. I really do. I would say go ahead and write, people. You know, if I could talk to myself back then. Yeah.
ah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about right there. That's right, folks. Don't let age hold you back. Write your books now. That's
That's
right.
right.
Write it now. Don't wait. Gotta appreciate yourself now and do it. Do it for your future self.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. Do it before the pink hair shows up.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
people are probably like, what the heck is Dom talking about again? It's like pink hair. Like, don't you mean gray hair? It's like, nah, pink hair.
Pink
But it's
hair.
way out
Yeah.
there.
I knew what you were talking about.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, for those who want to know more about what you're talking about, and more importantly, writing about, what's the best way for folks to reach out to the magical Marie herself?
I have a website, and it's probably the best way to contact me because it goes directly to my email, and I'm always, almost always online. And it's mariepowell.ca. So pretty easy to find. The .ca for Canada, right? And my name. And put those two things together, and hopefully it's easy to find. I'm also on Facebook, Marie Powell author, if you're looking for me there too. So yeah, happy to talk to people.
There you go, happy
Absolutely.
as a pappy. That's what I'm talking about, folks. So head over to that mariepowell.ca, buy all of her books, buy them for the kids in your life. Heck, even the grown-ups. Heck, even a couple of my colleagues, they like reading young adult fiction because they're more excited than some of the adult fiction. So
Yeah,
definitely
it's
pick
true.
it up. See, there you go. Even the author herself admits it too. So definitely go out there, check it out like a library book. Check out the whole library too while you're at it, and share with your friends and family. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, any parting words before we close up shop, Marie?
This was great, Dom. Thank you so much. It's been a really nice conversation that we've been having here, and I've enjoyed it. Stay well, and I hope your dreams come true, I guess. I hope you get everything you need and everything you want.
How's it going, you super special, awesome human? Since you made it to the end of this episode, it looks like you really enjoyed yourself. Since you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with at least 3 people in your network and tell them what you really liked about this episode. Heck, even shoot myself or the guest an email and let them know what you liked most about this interview so that way they can stay inspired to keep pushing out great work.